Oh, it says it's live.
Okay. I think we are live. Going live. I think we are live. It's first time. It's
Yeah,
always.
it's got a little counter in the corner saying we're live.
Oh, okay. So you can see the group because uh, because I'm an admin. I run the whole thing. Yeah. Yeah, we are live.
Yeah,
Uh,
I can
uh,
see you. I can see me.
you watch the stream. Okay, that's good. 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 That's happening when you do those things
Well,
live and first time. Uh,
I've, I've,
so
I've no idea if it's on Facebook, but uh,
yeah. Where are we? I'm just checking on Facebook. Yeah, it's on Facebook. Yeah, that's
okay.
good. Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone will be watching or will join us, but that conversation will stay on the group anyway, so anyone can watch as a recording later. And today, the new thing we were thinking to start doing like some reaction videos, and talk a little bit of the lyrics and maybe have some topics of conversations for conversation in later streams. Um, yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, even like if you're watching the recording, put them down in the comments, and we will be around. I mean, if you post them live, then we'll answer the question live. If it's on the recording, then we'll comment on our earliest convenience, I guess. So me is George, and this one is Roger. Uh,
Hi.
so we are the two of the triad that we run the Fire Blood, the metal church in Chatham. And today, as we said, we're going to be looking on the lyrics of Spirit Crusher by Death, one of the most legendary death metal bands. They're not Christian; they're warring Christian. They don't exist anymore after the sad passing of their singer in quite early age of from cancer. He was one of the most talented death metal musicians. So, fortunately, we cannot play the song here for all of us to listen because Facebook is going to drop the stream because it's copyrighted material. Uh, but there is a post in the group that you can go and listen to the song and read the lyrics if you don't know the song. So, Roger, did you get a chance to listen to the song? I know you're not
I did.
the biggest death metal fan.
That's a fair comment. Yeah, death metal, not really my thing, but I did listen to it and was surprised for a start. I could understand the lyrics. So that's
Yeah,
always a
so
bonus.
it was very early death metal. So no, I mean there are a few bands that you can understand the lyrics. To be honest.
Yeah. No, it was, yeah, it's interesting. It's, I looking at the lyrics as well. I mean, it's quite an interesting content. It's clearly a warning of sorts, which I
Mhm.
find interesting.
And the lyrics actually speak about anger, and I will just put them over here. That's the first part, and anger is also a theme quite like the writers of the Bible, then of the books of the Bible, they're not uh, strangers to the theme of anger. Is that you can see it in a lot of from the Old Testament. I mean, you can see it like when the writers speak actually about anger specifically, but also we read stories in the Old Testament about stupid things that happen when people got angry, isn't it?
Yeah, excuse me. Uh, yeah, the whole thing on anger. I guess from a biblical perspective, it I mean, certainly in the New Testament, it talks about anger being a sin, but then there are also stories which clearly show that Jesus got angry. So it's there's a differentiation of anger, I think, that comes down to the difference between anger as a reaction against something that affects you personally, selfishly,
Mm.
as opposed to a sort of righteous anger, which quite often is on behalf of other people, or in Jesus' case, on behalf of God, sort of throwing
Yeah,
the money
yeah.
changers out of a temple.
At the
So
same time,
it's
yeah, yeah.
causes some confusion, I think, for some.
I think there's also like I think we need to make a distinction between anger and rage. Is the rage is something like that can cause damage, where anger is not necessary because you can say some people struggle with anger, but what I mean, studying counseling, it gives you a much bigger perspective on the issue of anger. So then you realize that people that have struggled with anger or they get angry very often, they also people that have been traumatized.
Mm.
So I mean, when this is when someone like be is angry like all the time or like get angry very easily because we say again in the Bible, Paul says like be slow and to be angry. And I think also in the book of Proverbs talks about anger a lot and said like be slow in anger, don't get angry too easily.
Which is
But
sometimes easier said than done.
yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, yeah, of course. Because I mean, but then again, it's like when we read the script the wrong way, isn't it? Because like the script, like the script, those words have been written by humans. Is it like they were
Mm.
writing? They weren't saying, if you get angry, you're gonna be doomed for eternity. It was actually they were giving valid advice because when people are get angry, they like their reasoning just goes over the window, isn't it?
Mm.
You can see it in some point on the lyrics as well. Speaking and killing was the vicious kind that crush and kill, no mercy, its pleasure to taste. The blood that bled. Human at
Yeah,
sight,
it's
master at heart. It's like they could. I mean, the lyrics could be easily be on the book of Psalms, isn't it? you know,
yes, Soul Crusher, a Psalm of David. Mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
or the or even in the book of Proverbs.
yeah, yeah. I,
I mean, they were very wise words. If you know, if I believe if I saw them to someone that is not aware of death, like the band Death,
mm.
they won't realize that that's a death metal song, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know enough death metal
No, I mean
lyrics to comment, but
if I showed you just the
it's
lyrics, if I didn't tell you that was a song, I just sent you the
yeah,
lyrics, you wouldn't think that's a death metal song, isn't it?
yeah,
So, and that's something I always kind of find interesting, but also quite like with death metal. Uh, in a lot of bands, that the lyrics are not very, the vocals are not very clear, so you literally need to read the lyrics to understand what
mm,
the singer sings. But then there is a lot of attention on the lyrics, a lot of effort
yeah.
put there, and that's kind of very interesting. It's one of the reasons like I quite like death metal, and yeah,
Yeah, I think yeah. Looking at that lyric you quoted, the sort of speaking in killing words, I think that sort of defies, or sort of defines the wrong sort of anger, I
Mm.
guess. Um, it's the anger that is damaging to others,
Mm.
rather than a calm sort of, I don't know, getting angry about a situation, but doing it calmly.
Yeah.
It's the anger that makes the situation worse.
Yeah.
It's not the sort of motivation to do something about an injustice. It's the
Mm.
something has affected me, and I'm just going to bite back and damage the other person or the
Yeah.
thing or whatever. Um, you know, speaking killing words, the vicious kind that crush and kill. It's, there's it's the anger that causes damage.
Mm. Mm. But if you think about it, it doesn't cause damage only to the other person. It causes a lot of damage to the person that
Oh, absolutely.
is angry, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, you can see people that they struggle with anger. They're not happy people, isn't it?
yeah.
And take to a different. Another thing is like a family member who works in the prison, and there's a good number of inmates there that they're there because they did things on while being angry. They weren't bad people. They
Mm.
weren't like abusers or thieves or murderers. They just couldn't control their anger and they did stupid things and they ended up in prison.
Yeah, it's people that get into fights that go too far,
Mm.
or sort of, yeah, physical abuse as a result of anger. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um, and it's, I think it's interesting, the sort of choice of title. If you're looking at the anger theme, and it's sort of
yes.
soul crusher.
Spirit crusher.
Oh, sorry, spirit crusher.
Yeah.
It's, anger crushes your spirit.
Mm.
It's if you're angry, it drains the joy out of life.
Yeah.
Um, uh, there's actually one of the proverbs: "A joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones." Um, it just sort of
Yeah.
it the only energy you've got is rage, which, can't be healthy.
Yeah, and it's funny because I tried to find Chuck's. The Chuck's name, the founder of Death and the frontman is Chuck's Saldin. Schuldiner, I can't pronounce his surname. I will just. It's German, so definitely he has like a German descent,
Right.
or Austria or something. So Chuck is funny because like having a song actually warning you about death from a death metal band, which most people will describe it as angry music, isn't it? Uh,
Yeah.
and and people that knew Chuck, like when he died, they were saying like he was the kindest person they will ever knew. He was like really respectful, always had something nice to say to people. Like,
but it's an angry song about the dangers of
hmm,
being made angry. See, I think the warning in the song, sort of looking through the lyrics, sort of when I first looked at it, it's the warning is about Satan, the deceiver, the keeper of dreams,
yeah,
who influences people
hmm,
to be, for that angry.
very
It, it,
good
it's
lyric.
it's a very,
Yeah,
I don't know,
but
for me it just sort of stood out
hmm,
as a clear warning. Um, the whole sort of human insight, monster at heart.
I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
Chuck wasn't religious, but that's the beauty of music. At the same time that
Well,
you can hear a song and everyone can put their own
yeah.
interpretation. And then something that Dee Snyder actually said, like that's the beauty of music. I write a song, I write lyrics for a reason, but then anyone that listens to it, they can interpret it the way they want it and speak to their lives the way they need it to, and that's fine. That's the beauty of
Hmm.
music, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the interesting things about this. But I mean, this isn't the only metal song that warns against
Mm.
the devil. Um, even it's more my sort of scene, but Black Sabbath got a number of songs talking about how the devil will
Yeah.
fool you and take control. It's
But Black Sabbath are
I
always Christian, is that? I don't know about Ozzy's religious affiliations now, but
I,
Tony Iommi has spoken, even recent interviews, he was quite outspoken that he's still a believer.
yeah, okay,
Yeah. I mean, he has that cross that he wears.
yeah, and I was never sure whether that was sort of from any belief or just sort of superstition or sort of
Yeah, I mean,
protection, warding off evil.
I'm
But
not sure because like the early bands, like the early, like heavy metal and power metal bands, they most of them they had a faith which they quite kept. Like
mm,
even Rob Halford I had to do a little bit of digging now, but he still confessed to be a Christian.
he's quite outward in his faith, I think now, isn't
I mean,
he?
not
In
really.
places,
He's not
he's
really like.
certainly not denying it.
No, I mean that's not saying if you ask him, like
Mm,
that's why I had to do a little bit of digging up. He's not like he's going around and he doesn't do like Brian Wells that he goes around and shouts that he's a believer. But he just if whenever he was asked, he was like, "Yeah, I'm a Christian." Like,
yeah.
he never kept it like, and it was quite surprising because like given his background,
Oh, sure.
being a gay man during the 70s and the 80s, that he kept
Mm.
it as a you know as a secret. Even Judas Priest didn't know he was gay, and that actually led him to alcoholism and a lot of other things.
Again, yeah, another pressure, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the useless information of the day. They were touring with Iron Maiden, and one night they got drunk with Paul Diano, and he tried to seduce him, but they were so drunk that didn't do it. And looking back now, he would say like it was a good thing that couldn't didn't happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Diano would have taken that, but
I don't know. It's been like 50 years now, isn't it?
I know. Yeah, I remember seeing Maiden with Diano.
Oh, now you giving up your age.
Yeah, definitely.
I wasn't
I
even
think
born then.
to be fair, I think it was only 40 years ago, but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, we go into a different subject.
yeah. So I mean, you're saying sort of the lyrics are open to anyone's interpretation, and as I say, clearly see it as sort of talking about the devil and his influence.
Mm.
Do you have a different spin on that? I'm
I
just
mean,
looking at it comes from the depths of a place unknown.
yeah.
It would steal the sun and the moon. Beware, sort of.
I mean, in general, I'm always a bit reluctant to blame the devil about stuff.
Oh, sure, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I have this cough.
No, and
Uh,
it's very easy to overplay the devil's
mm.
influence in
Yeah,
life.
and
I mean,
especially
sometimes just
as a therapist in training, it kind of give you my perspective quite changed and keeps changing. I'm still like not even halfway through my training, but it gives me to understand a much different understanding of a lot of things that people do. And when you see the reasons, a lot of time behind, like, anger, uh,
Mm.
spouts, or abusive behavior, like it's always a trauma.
Yeah.
So people have been traumatized, especially from young age, and then they're just reacting to what they do. Yeah, and then maybe we can say is where the devil may come and start like pinching those like pain points.
I think
So my
if
my yeah,
you're quite, if you're in that position where you've got that history of pain, of trauma, actually the devil doesn't have to get involved.
yeah,
You're quite happy sort of doing the job for him.
yeah.
Uh,
That's why like that's why my theory is like if the devil has anything to do with this is this. So
yeah,
that's actually being pinching those pressure points or pain points, and
yeah.
just makes you go. Uh, yeah, in general, yeah, I'm very uh, uh, because also coming from a having a Pentecostal background where a lot of things have been over sensationalized. I kind of made me even more yeah, let's think about it. Maybe it's not the devil that is involved. Because sometimes I think for Christians, the devil became the the proverbial goat,
Scapegoat.
the scapegoat. Yeah, 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 the
Yeah,
scapegoat. Yeah,
yeah.
he became a
No,
scapegoat. Like
absolutely. Yeah,
I remember reading an article where there was this quite a young guy. He was supposed to be a missionary in Africa, and he's sexually abusing children. And his excuse was like, "The devil made me do it."
yeah. No, that's just a cop
And
out,
and,
isn't it?
and I'm quite confident that a lot of people believed him,
Mm.
accepted. Like, let's have a prayer meeting to cast the devil away. And are you afraid of your?
Yeah,
Actually, it wasn't the devil. It was like you are you are sick.
it's just
You're a terrible human being.
yeah. But it's the effect of sin being in the world in the first place.
Hmm.
As I say, the devil doesn't have to intervene if people are going to do stuff anyway.
Yeah, I mean, then again, like we need to also be very careful to, with the sin, isn't it? Because especially the last few months, we have a lot of, I mean, a lot of things coming, surfacing from like poster boys of different streams of Christianity
Mm.
being accused. Like we have like Rabbi Zachariah, he was almost running brothels. Uh, he was owner of some massage parlors where he was there was like proper massage parlor, but he was actually raping some of his employees.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that was like that's been proven. It's been
Mm.
like it's beyond doubt. There's not even it's not even an allegation anymore. Like and like and you see like how many people running to his support that we all sinners and like but like okay like but I don't go around raping people. Like that's a crime.
Yeah. And yeah,
Like abusing power that like people like Driscoll did.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. A lot of these things come from abuse of power, don't they? It's greed. It's arrogance.
Yeah.
It's yeah. No, no one can touch me because I'm this great person, and they
Hmm.
sort of lost sight of the message, and it all becomes
Yeah.
about them.
To keep it to the subject, I mean, through my life in churches, I have seen, far too many respected leaders having anger issues,
Mm.
where Paul specifically says if someone has anger issues, it shouldn't be an elder, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Mind you, if you sort of confined elders to the sort of list of features that Paul sets out, you'd be lucky to find many people at all, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but I mean, on the other hand, I don't think that what Paul says is something like unachievable.
Oh no, no, but
It's
it's
unachievable if you take it and you make it like an unbreakable rule that you need to be that
mm,
perfect human being that you never get angry, that you never sleep. But, I mean, even non-Christians, like even if you ask an atheist, they will tell you the same thing. Like you know, even the most virtuous person has flaws. It's like
yeah.
this is how it is. You don't need the Bible to tell you that. Like,
Oh sure,
but I think it gets like to a more uh, so given an example, being an example of a person basically that people will look up to, isn't it?
yeah. It's being respectable, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Although I
That's
think
what.
I think you've also got to be human because otherwise you do get, I mean, sort of church leaders do get put on a pedestal,
Yeah,
um, and that leads to arrogance. And actually, I mean, it's quite damaging. I've always thought for them as well. It
yeah,
makes them very isolated in their own community because they can't actually be, they can't show weakness or have a bad day
mm.
without everybody thinking badly of them. Um,
Just scrolling through some verses I copied earlier. Uh, this one, Paul at the Ephesians actually says a lot about anger. And this one, like in your
yeah,
anger, do not sin, do not let the sun go down while you're still angry. So basically, it doesn't say like don't get angry.
no,
It says what we were talking earlier. It's like, if you get angry, just you know, don't go and harm someone. And to take it back to my studies, is something that we look quite often, uh, especially like if you have. We very often we look into situations that you may have a client that what they're talking about is very triggering for you as the counselor, and basically what we're working in is like identify our own triggers
okay,
and work on them. And so basically it doesn't we actually we don't work to get rid of the trigger. We actually working to get rid of the ammunition,
okay,
because
yeah,
a
makes
gun,
sense.
like you said, like the trigger is a very small part, but if you have a rifle without any ammunition and you press the trigger, it doesn't do anything, is it? It just clicks.
Yeah,
So basically, and I can understand like what Paul says here. Like it actually talks about this, isn't it? Like don't let your triggers ruin. Don't put too
mm.
much ammunition into your rifle, isn't it? And when you get triggered, everything, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. I mean, again, sort of going back to that example said earlier, where Jesus got angry in the temple.
Mm.
He was angry about what was going on, but it wasn't an uncontrolled anger. He took time to explain to people, sort of why he was turning over the tables and
It was quite.
throwing them out.
It was quite premeditated, isn't it?
Almost. I mean, it may.
Almost.
I don't know.
I mean, because
I
it
think
was.
as a reaction, but
Mm,
he did it in such a way. It was wrong what was
yeah,
going on, and he did something about it. But he didn't just lose his rag and
yeah,
fly off the handle. He
yeah,
he
yeah.
he prepared a cord to drive the animals out.
Mm-hmm. The better say it was
You know,
premeditated because like that scenery wasn't like a first time that was happening. That was happening for decades, isn't it?
oh
So
yeah, yeah,
Jesus grew up with this
yeah.
scenery. So it was something that was building up in him, and that's one day it's like okay, like I had to get enough.
Well, I think maybe, I mean, seeing it in the temple in Jerusalem maybe was, had more impact than maybe the local sort of synagogue in
Mm.
Nazareth or whatever.
But
But yeah, I mean, but it was the whole fact that you know he was angry, but it was a controlled,
Hmm.
righteous anger. It wasn't
Yeah,
just violent for the sake of violence.
yeah. At the same time, it gets a little bit further because it wasn't just cleansing of the temple; it was a direct attack to the governing system of the temple.
Oh, sure,
So he was
yeah,
directly attacking all the priests that they
and the
were
corruption
running,
and
or that were actually running the show. The people that they got whipped, it was merely employees.
yeah,
The priest was running the show, so it was like a direct attack to them. And I think if I remember correct, it was like after that point that they became quite more active on trying to get rid of him, isn't it?
yes, yeah. Well, I guess I mean, he was attacking a source of income,
Mm.
so
Yeah, yeah,
as well as their power base. So
yeah. But something that was in my mind about thinking about anger is how we deal with this within churches. And it's not only in churches. I mean, I guess in general in the world, when and it's kind of righteous anger as well, but the anger of the victim.
mm,
When we say, when we say to victims, ah, you need to forgive them, or or even silencing them. If the perpetrator is an elder or a vic or a pastor, how many times we saw that happening, isn't it? I mean, the news are full of this of uh,
sure,
uh,
yeah,
situations and anger at the same time is a primal feeling. So it is within us, like and I believe it's a valid feeling. Like everyone should have the right to feel angry.
mm,
And again, going back to it's how you manage this anger, how you let it, because you know, s- seeing what's happening in the world, and a lot of times, not only now but during history, you know, the Lutheran Church, for instance, in Germany, was blessing Hitler. You
sure,
cannot,
yeah.
yeah, you cannot get angry about those things, But at the same time, you don't get out like take a bath and start beating Lutherans.
Well, but there was, I mean, there was a whole thing with the sort of Lutheran Church in the early 20th century, sort of supporting the National Socialists and
Hmm.
such like. This is why Bonhoeffer got angry about it.
Yeah, and also
Um,
Luther, in the end, the Lutheran Church took they quite kind of excommunicated him. I think they took his license. They revoked his license. Like he couldn't be a pastor anymore, basically.
mm,
They disassociated him. Yeah, no, yeah, because while he was in London, because in Germany he was wounded.
yeah. So I was just trying to remember a quote from Bonhoeffer, which is particularly relevant to anger, and I can't remember what it was. But um,
Yeah, he said quite a lot of things. It's definitely worth
yeah,
reading his
it
books.
he certainly upset a lot of people. it's,
And it's
uh,
funny because
and
he
and
he was like
rightly so.
he was a committed pacifist,
Yeah,
and he was refusing to use violence, and it's quite interesting because he was one of the that's how he got arrested at the end. One of the main conspirators of conspiring to assassinate Hitler,
yeah,
and some series like imagine like if Bonhoeffer, like a pacifist to his bones, agreed to do this. You can imagine how like it was like beyond last resort. It was like isn't it?
Yeah, but again, it was yeah, it was targeted and it was on behalf of others,
Mm.
not a personal slight, wasn't it? It's
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think a lot of bad anger, for want of a better phrase, tends to be a reaction against sort of personal slight. Someone says something to you, or someone bumps into you when you weren't expecting it, or whatever, or someone
Doesn't necessarily harm
frustrates you
your
in some way.
doesn't harm your ego,
It's
isn't it?
all yeah, it's all about ego and pride and all that other stuff, which isn't actually too healthy.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. It's far, far to zoom in. Okay. I mean, we're at 35 minutes. I think it would be good to wrap this up because otherwise we don't want to take too long
Yeah, sure.
and people get bored of listening to us. Uh,
Surely not.
yeah. So anyway, so I guess we're gonna be back in here in a couple of weeks' time, isn't it? Probably.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we can, and we
Watch this
can
space.
watch this space. We need to find a subject as well, because like every time we take things as they come. I think Rob had some ideas for songs when last time we spoke, so I get in touch with him and see what he has, and we can stick a subject on it, or we can have just a conversation. And yeah, if in anyone at any time watching live and want to jump in and share a few thoughts, then let us know. For the time
Sure.
being, yeah, we're happy to hear your comments down there, and we'll see you all in a couple of
Yeah.
weeks' time. Then, bye.
Go,
Good night, all.
good night, all. Go away and listen to Spirit Crusher by Death and let us know what you think of the lyrics. Give us your take.
Yeah.